All right. Well, hello and welcome to part 2 of our 4-part series of our virtually speaking webinars. Today's topic is apprenticeship. Our first topic was our premier virtual job seeker job fair platform. If you missed that, you can pick it up on our website at nwtnjobs.org. We also have 2 more in our series that are upcoming. It is one on work life on September the 2nd, which highlights our work experience program and helps you build a talent pipeline of youth for your jobs. And then on December 2nd, we'll have a final in our series. Topic will be upcoming. We'll announce that on our Facebook page, which is the American Job Centers of Northwest Tennessee. Make sure you follow that for all of our upcoming news. I'm Ginger Powell, and I'm the Deputy Director with the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board. And joining me today on our panel is Tyra Copas, and she's the Assistant Administrator for the Tennessee Department of Labor. Formerly, she was our State Apprenticeship Director, and she still oversees all of the apprenticeship activity in the state of Tennessee. So Tyra is going to speak to us kind of about the nuts and bolts of apprenticeship and how to begin your apprenticeship for your company. Dawn Fowler is joining us from Crown Winery here in Northwest Tennessee. She also owns wineries and businesses, the Vintage Winery in Columbia, Tennessee, and Wines in the Fork in Leapers Fork. And she is new to the apprenticeship field, and she began one this past year, and she's going to talk to us about just that beginning experience and how to start up an apprenticeship program. With her today is Kaylee Leach, and she is a tasting room associate, and she is in the apprenticeship program. And also out in the vineyard is Ben Leach, and he is the vineyard manager with Crown Winery, and he's going to speak to his experience as well. Now, throughout the webinar, you're welcome to enter your questions. There'll be a chat box, should be at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little chat option. Feel free, if you have questions during the webinar, to just go ahead and type those in there. That is being monitored by staff, and they're happy to answer those questions for you. So again, just feel free to go ahead and ask those questions. We're going to kick it off with Tyra Copas. She's going to get started. I believe she's going to screen share some information with us, a few slides. Tyra, would you like to go ahead and get started?
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking with you today and sharing some information with you. What I would like to do is just kind of give you that 30,000 foot view of apprenticeships, and definitely, hopefully, whet your appetite for a little bit more information, and then we can address any other questions that you may have. And so I am a little technology challenge here, so I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully, okay, I get a heads up from Ginger, so I'm assuming we're good to go. I won't take a whole lot of time this morning, but I did want to touch on just what is an apprenticeship program and how it might work for your organization. So I typically like to start off the conversation with terms, because an apprenticeship program, it is a very specific talent strategy, and it is, what I like to start off with is what it is not. And so what an apprenticeship is not, it is not any type of short-term or temporary work assignment. It is a training program that is intended for bringing in someone to your organization with little to no experience, and giving them both the training and the job experience to make them an expert in that occupation. And so I'll go over the components, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about how it might work. So the first and most important component of an apprenticeship program is you have to have an employer. So every apprenticeship program is driven by the employer. The employer gets all decision rights when it comes to what training they want and what on-the-job learning experiences, as well as what salaries the individuals will receive. So you cannot have an apprenticeship program without an employer. The second is on-the-job learning. So for an apprenticeship program, there is a requirement for on-the-job experience under the supervision of someone who knows what they're doing, whether that's a mentor, an expert level, a supervisor. It's going to be someone that person can go to ask questions and to get some structure of how to do things. The third component is instruction. So there is a training element with every apprenticeship program. Both the on-the-job learning as well as the instruction, there are defined hours. So based on the occupation, the United States Department of Labor outlines what those hours should be. For an example, let's take a welder occupation. That's a very refined skill set. So a welder occupation cannot be conducted and completed within a year's time frame. You cannot become an expert of all types of welds in 1 year. And so there are some requirement hours associated by occupation. The instruction piece, the employer determines who and where and what that instruction should look like. There has to be some type of rewards for skills gain. What that means is there has to be a monetary increase. So you're bringing someone into a position at a certain rate. That rate must be at least minimum wage, if not greater. And then throughout their training, as their skills develop, as their knowledge develops, so will their pay. And so that's what rewards for skill gains means. And then the fourth component, and this is, or the fifth component, and the one that is very enticing to individuals, is that national occupation credential. And so what that means is it is a certification that that person has completed both on the job experience as well as instruction in that occupation, making them an expert in the field of that work. Let's talk a little bit about the roles of the different types of roles in an apprenticeship program. So if you think about a three-legged stool, there is the employer, which is the fundamental leg. So you cannot, it won't stand up without the employer. There are two other roles that make up that stool. So that first is the employer. They are responsible for all the hiring, all the decisions about the program, and are responsible for the on-the-job learning component. The second leg, so to speak, is a sponsor. And that sponsor's responsibility is for administration and the paperwork of the program. So they're the ones who are making sure that program is operating, that individuals are registered, and that they're completing the hours that they need to complete. And then the third leg is that training provider. So whoever is going to do the training is responsible for conducting that training. This is important because it can get a little confusing of what role people play. The most important thing to remember is that it's employer driven. The employer can serve in all three roles. So the employer can be the sponsor as well as the training provider. The employer may elect to be the sponsor and offer the training provider to maybe a college system or another third-party organization. Or the employer may say, I want the college to be my sponsor. I'll serve as the employer. And so in that scenario, the college is serving both as the training provider and the sponsor. And so my office, as well as Ginger Powell, who is a great partner in the Northwest, we will help that employer figure out what role they want to be in and who best to partner with if they want to partner with a third-party organization or a college system. I always like to go over a few quick myths that I seem to address all the time. And so the first is that apprenticeship programs are only for unions or individuals with large companies. And so that is definitely a definite myth. In Tennessee, we have all types of small employers, large employers with an apprenticeship program. I think our smallest company has 4 employees, and they have an apprenticeship active program. So you do not have to be a large organization. It does not have to be union. In Tennessee, most of our programs in Tennessee are non-union programs. And then these programs can be third-party sponsored, college sponsored. So they're, obviously those are not union programs, nor are they employers. The second myth I always like to touch on is that it's only for construction and manufacturing jobs. So there are more than 1,000 occupations that are what we call apprenticeable, meaning there is an opportunity to have an apprenticeship program. There are also apprenticeship programs in every single industry out there. While historically, construction and manufacturing occupations are great programs for apprenticeships, and in Tennessee, we do have a large percentage of those types of programs. We are rapidly growing in our what we call our non-traditional programs. So those are, you're going to hear from one of them today in the winery industry. We have programs in the medical industry, programs in IT, and programs. Think about any type of program that you need to gain skills while you're on the job. Those are perfect opportunities for apprenticeship programs. They're only for non-college bound individuals. Again, most of our apprenticeship programs are in-house programs and have some type of education component at a college system. And so those programs obviously are college bound students. And then the last, and one of my favorite, is the federal government's going to micromanage your workforce. With apprenticeship programs, the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeships Department, they outline the framework for the apprenticeship. So they're going to set how many hours you have to have based off of the occupation. Everything outside of that, you as the employer, you as the sponsor, you're going to manage. So the employer determines who to hire, if an individual needs to be exited, how much to pay, when those increases should occur, as well as how to manage the overall program. So I won't read this entire slide to you, but we get these questions all the time. Is an apprenticeship program right for me? So if you have any type of workforce challenge, an apprenticeship program is probably a good model for you, as long as you're looking for that long-term full-time hire. So again, it is not a short-term position. It is not for seasonal work. It is for that long-term individual or that long-term hire. So any position where it's hard to fill a job, maybe positions with high turnover, or if you look at your workforce and you are a little shocked that your demographics are trending in you have an aging workforce, and you're needing to bring in some new talent into that workforce, or you need to upskill the middle management into those higher level positions. Those are perfect opportunities to implement an apprenticeship program. The last one I will touch on, and that is if you're having difficulty filling diverse talent. So if you have minority measures and you're not meeting those, setting up an apprenticeship and tying it with a pre-apprenticeship is a great way to help you meet your diversity goals. And we'll explain more of that if you're interested in that. But all of those different types of workforce challenges, apprenticeship programs can help help improvements. I'll go over this slide pretty quickly. It can be a little complicated, but I'll touch on kind of just the high level again. Apprenticeship program, again, is for that full-time, long-term employment, and it's about giving that individual both training on the job as well as that education needed. You can have a youth apprenticeship. We encourage you to have a youth apprenticeship, especially with the workforce challenges we face today. I talk about all the time with employers about you have to go deeper into the talent supply chain. And that's your 16 and 17 years old. And we are very fortunate that in Tennessee, we have a Tennessee annotated code. So we have legislation around if individuals are 16, 17 years old, participating in a registered apprenticeship program or in a work-based learning program, they are exempt from child labor law. That's so important, because what that means is they can work the hours that you need them to work. If it's an apprenticeship program, it operates just the same. So a youth apprenticeship program and a registered apprenticeship program operates just the same. The difference is that with a youth, if they're enrolled in high school or they're enrolled in college, they are not required to work full-time hours. So the work cannot conflict with the education that they need. With an apprenticeship program, employers pay the cost, and that's where it's so important to partner you with your local workforce board to offset any cost opportunities that you may be eligible for as an employer. Again, if you work with a college system, there's Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect that really come into play to help offset those costs. One of the benefits of having a registered apprenticeship program is that pre-apprenticeship opportunity. And so what that means is if you have a program that is, let's take an 8,000 hour or a 4-year program. So maybe something in our manufacturing space or construction space. And that program is going to require 576 hours of training to help eliminate some of the cost for the employer for that training component. That's where we like to set up those pre-apprenticeships. Pre-apprenticeships are great working with college, high school, adult education, in our corrections facilities, disabilities office, nonprofits, third parties. Anybody and everybody that conducts training can set up pre-apprenticeship programs partnering with an employer. What the pre-apprenticeship does is individuals that want to go into that occupation can enroll in that pre-apprenticeship. They receive and pay for all the training themselves, or if the pre-apprenticeship is partnered with an organization that may offset the cost. But what the employer is doing is they're partnering with those organizations to say, if you train these individuals on this certain criteria, we will agree to interview them. And if we hire them, we give them credit for that training experience. What that does is it shortens the time frame for the apprenticeship program that the individual is having to work through when you do hire them. So our goal in Tennessee, we would love to have every apprenticeship program paired with a pre-apprenticeship. That then is going to help those employers build that talent pipeline. So imagine a world where you have a position and you already have anywhere from 10 to 30 individuals trained and ready to be interviewed for that position. That is a perfect workforce world. And so that's kind of what we're trying to get to when we're talking about pre-apprenticeships. Benefits to employers. There are several benefits to employers. I won't read all of these for you, but the key is, in summary, the main benefit to employers is that established talent pipeline. There could be some cost, and so we partner with the local workforce board to help offset that cost. Obviously, the more money that we can offset the cost with, the higher the ROI for the company, or the return on investment. Nationally, the return on investment indicates for every dollar that is put in, $1.47 is returned in investment. And so how do you get that number? You get it with higher productivity, lower turnover rates, higher retention rates, and a safer work environment. And so I'll kind of pause there. Again, a 30,000 foot view on apprenticeships. Hopefully it whetted your appetite a little bit for some additional information. And if there are any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. We do have an apprenticeshiptn.com website that has lots of information out there. There is an apprenticeship TN mailbox that you can ask any questions to. We do have a state director. She may be on the call with us. She's actually traveling today. Holly Free Allard is her name, and she is more than happy to work with you. But your boots on the ground contact, I would say, is Ginger Powell. She is phenomenal at helping us set up apprenticeship programs, and she will help us connect you with the apprenticeship director to help set up and do all the legwork of your program. So with that, Ginger, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Tyra. So that was some great information. Thank you for that overview of kind of what I call the nuts and bolts of apprenticeship, what makes up an apprenticeship program. One reason we asked Dawn and Kaylee and Ben to join us today is because they are new to apprenticeship. So Crown Winery they started their own apprenticeship program, I guess about a year ago. So they can speak to kind of that new experience. We have several employers in the area who've run an apprenticeship program long term, but I thought it was a great advantage to bring Dawn, who could speak to kind of from the employer standpoint, that startup and what that looked like and the benefits that they have received at this point. So Dawn, just take it from here.
Hello there. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm excited to be here to talk to y'all a little bit about what we've experienced. Like Ginger said, being new into the apprenticeship program, honestly, a couple years ago didn't know anything about this or that it even existed. And so I'm going to give you just a little bit of background about our business to know how the apprenticeship has helped us and how it fits into our roles. So as she said, I own Crown Winery along with my husband, Scott. And you know, we purchased this winery 3.5 years ago. And when we bought this winery, it was already established, but the previous owner had passed away, and it sat for sale for about a year. So during that time, they lost the vineyard manager, tasting room manager, you know, people that had experience in actually starting this business and you know, getting the vineyard growing and all of that. There wasn't really any resources for us for those positions. And so being in viticulture and winemaking and all of that, there's not a lot of people that have the knowledge in that field for us to just go scoop up educated people in those fields to start hiring. So, you know, the first several years, you know, we had to take a business that kind of sat idle for a year and really had to grow it back to where it was. And then we wanted to take it to new places and add our spin to the business. And so for us, those first couple of years were just as, you know, any other small business owners out there, we were doing everything. You know, we were working in the vineyard, we were working in the winemaking area, we were the ones doing the tours and tastings and ourselves to where we were running ourselves ragged, just trying to be everything. And so it was hard to take a step back and stop working in our business and working on our business by attending meetings and learning about what resources were out there for us to help move this business in the direction we needed it to be. It's something that I wish I would have known on day one instead of a couple of years in, because we probably could have sped this process up a lot faster and maybe not worn ourselves out quite as much. But we're so thankful we did find out about the registered apprenticeships and the assistance that we could get through the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board a year or maybe closer to 2 years, I don't know, ago, that we started this process. And so a little bit about our business. We're a farm. We are growing grapes. So there is a vineyard business. There's also the wine production facility. So we're making our own wines. We also have a tasting room where we're doing educational tours and tastings for people, as well as a huge event venue. So we have weddings and there's all the event planning side. So this is really 4 businesses at least, not to mention the tourism side, which is kind of a 5th business that we're trying to do all within one. So there's a lot of different hats to be worn here and a lot of different opportunities for employment, as well as different education, different skill sets that are needed for each aspect of the business. It's not just one skill set. So for us to be able to learn about the apprenticeship program was huge. And how that came about was our Tennessee Farm Wine Growers Alliance started talking about starting apprenticeships in the state, because this is a problem all the wineries and vineyards are having, is finding people that know how to do the work that we need them to do, and that it is too much work as an owner to try to do yourself. And so they started talking about this, and I kept hearing about it and thinking, oh, kind of those myths that Tyra went over all kind of were going through my head. And so it was like, oh, this doesn't, you know, we don't qualify for that, or that's for unions, or that's for big companies, or, you know, all of those things were, you know, or it's too expensive. I can't pay for education for my employees. I'm just starting out. So those were all things that kind of kept me from looking into it, you know, as seriously as I probably should have at the beginning. But then I did find myself in a meeting with the president of Dyersburg State University, and they had invited Malia Evans with the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board to attend the meeting with us. And that's how I first found out what resources were out there for us, and that we did qualify, and that this was the perfect setup for us. And so, you know, through that, we were able to, you know, to bring the opportunity to Ben and Kaylee to get them educated in a skill set that they really didn't have prior to coming to Crown Winery. So both of them, and you'll get to hear from them a little bit about the educational aspect, but both of them do have college education. And so for them to jump in with us and start working here, you know, we knew we needed a skilled team to kind of take our business where we wanted it to go. And so for them to be willing to learn something completely new and have this opportunity was exciting for us. So I've really enjoyed, I guess they've just finished 2 semesters of the apprenticeship, and seeing them learn from people that, I mean, I'm jealous. I kind of actually wish I was in the classes myself. All the things that they're learning is awesome. But to see them engage, you know, and to come in after class and stand and talk to our winemaker and say, hey, I learned this in class last night. Tell me about this, or why is this? Or for Ben to come in and say, hey, my professor said our issue with this in the vineyard could be this, you know, and for us to have them troubleshooting issues for us, and to see their confidence grow and to see their ownership in their role in their job here has been amazing for us. And so we can now actually leave the winery for a little bit and feel like we can leave it in great hands for people that are actually going to represent the business well, and to be able to, you know, give our customers the same experience that they would get if we were here. And so that has been such a blessing. So really just all of this, you know, they've gone through 2 semesters of school, and it has cost me not a dime. It has cost them not a dime. This is fully funded, and that's just, I still don't actually believe it. Like at the beginning, I was like, there's got to be a catch. Like, this isn't going to be free, you know, nothing is free, right? So I just kept thinking that, you know, how can this, you know, be possible? But I really feel in meeting in my conversations with Ginger and Malia, and every single conversation is always, I walk away feeling like they are truly invested in wanting to make my business succeed and wanting to make my employees, you know, learn and to know and to feel like that they're appreciated. And so it's really, it was really a pivotal moment for my business. Honestly, when I was thinking back about this last night and what I was going to say to you all today, it was that really taking the step and learning about the resources and things that are out there was huge for me and for my employees. And I encourage anybody who's considering this program to learn about it. They make it easy. I mean, really, it's like, I mean, if I have to sign a paper or fill something out, it's like, I need you to do this. Here it is. Here, it's all ready for you. Like, I don't have to spend a lot of time, because time is super valuable to, you know, to business owners and stuff. And it's not difficult for me to have them enrolled in this. And this is a class, these are classes and stuff that they're doing on their own time. So they're not taking their courses, their online course stuff during the business day while they're working here. So what they're doing when they're here on the clock with me is they're on the job learning part. So they're taking the things they apply that they learned in class in the evening, and they're getting to do that here and work on the job learning aspect of it while they're here. So for me, it's obviously a win-win. It's a little bit more difficult on them as the students, but so they're actually, you know, it's not, I don't see a whole lot of time taken away from the job or anything like that for them to be doing these courses, which is another positive thing. So I don't know. trying to think if there's anything else that that y'all would maybe want to know, but I'll be around if there's questions or whatever. And also, look me up, Crown Winery in Humboldt. If you have questions, I'm so happy to talk to anybody from the business owner aspect anytime, if you have any questions for me.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I want to toss it over to Kaylee. As I mentioned earlier, she is the tasting room associate there at Crown Winery. And she is, like we mentioned before, she had already attended college, but her learning in college was not viticulture. It was not related to the wine business. So all of her coursework in the apprenticeship program is directly related to what she's doing on the job. And I'm going to ask Kaylee just to speak to that a little bit about, what she's learning in class and how she's able to apply that on the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this has been really great for me to be in this. Just like what Ginger said, just learning exactly what we need for the specific job. When you go to college, you learn a lot of things, which is great, but it doesn't really help you in your field. And so taking classes like learning how to make wine, that is something that sure I could have looked that up on some YouTube videos, but when I'm giving tours to people and they're asking me questions about what are we doing in the winemaking process or during harvesting or how different things work, because I've taken a class on winemaking and I've been able to work side by side with the other students in the class too, then I've actually gained that information for myself, and I've really been able to just learn so much from that. And this past semester, I have also taken a class about wine appreciation and just the way that you can drink different wines and pick out the different senses in the wines. Just being able to talk about that too with the students in the class, and that's been really great because then I can learn something that I learned that night from the class and then come back to work the very next day and then be able to tell customers about it as well. And something that I love about this class is that you are in the classroom with different people from all over the United States. And so I'm not making the exact same wine as someone that is right next to me, but it's someone that's in California or in Kansas or in Missouri, that they are making different kinds because that's what grows in their area. Or we all just have different opinions that we can offer to the class and talk with each other. Whereas if I was just trying to look up some questions on Google or try to read a book or something, then I wouldn't be able to sit face to face with the professor or with my classmates and just converse back and forth with them. And so this has been something that I had never thought that I would even be in. And I was always the person that had to call for help when it's time to pick out a wine. And so this has really sped up my learning process of just being able to retain all this information and then spit it back out to the very next day to the people that come in. And so I've been very thankful for this. And like Dawn said, it hasn't costed us anything for it. And so that's a huge thing for sure. I feel like for a lot of people is if they're having to pay for it, then that is a big hindrance sometimes. And so having Ginger then approach us and offer this to us has just grown us in our confidence and working here. And then also I think it's really impacted our customers' experience as they're coming here, because then they know, oh yeah, she's knowledgeable, she knows what she's talking about. And there's been some times that in the beginning, especially before this class, I would say some information. So I was like, oh, I think I've heard that before. And then once I've taken the class, it's like, oh, that's the right answer. Okay. And so yeah, it's just been able to give us a wealth of knowledge really at a quick speed, and they've just given you everything that you need. And so we're not done yet with the course, and so we still have a little bit more to learn, which has been great. And so I'm excited to keep on growing from this. Yeah, it's been really great.
And I should mention too that so the RTI portion, which is the related technical instruction that Ben and Kaylee are taking at night in the evenings online, can vary from apprenticeship to apprenticeship. So they selected, or I should say Dawn and her team selected, Missouri State University has a viticulture program, and they actually use instructors from all over the country to teach this coursework. And many of them have been vineyard owners, have worked in a vineyard, have a vineyard on the campus, etc. So they have a lot of real life experience in viticulture. And then this allows, because the coursework is online, students are able to join from, anywhere in the country and participate and learn about, as she mentioned, how things are done in different places geographically throughout the country based on what grapes grow in that area and what the preferences are for wine in that area. So thank you so much, Kaylee. And then last, we're going to send it over to Ben. He is actually out in the vineyard. He is their vineyard manager. And his is a 2-year apprenticeship program. Kaylee's is a 1-year apprenticeship program. And so the amount of coursework they take is reflected in that length of the program. And I just kind of wanted Ben to speak to how his coursework is impacting his career and personal growth as well.
Yeah, well, Ginger, you really hit my point for me. And so in my classes, I've been able to learn from teachers that are not only knowledgeable from a book standpoint, but also with their experience. So like Ginger said, they own their own vineyards, or they work at large vineyards. And so they have that hands-on experience as well. And what I've really enjoyed about these classes, and like Dawn mentioned this earlier as well, having a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips when I am out in the vineyard and I see something that I don't quite understand, or a grapevine isn't necessarily producing the way it should. I can bring that question to the professor and ask him, or maybe like send him a picture of it. And he's able to diagnose that problem and say, oh, I know exactly what this is. I've experienced that in my years, and this is what it is. This is maybe how you can treat it. And it's just been a really great experience that way. I think I have learned a lot of things that it would have taken me a lot longer to learn on my own, just by speaking with, our winemaker, and, Scott, who's very hands-on in the vineyard. I've learned a lot from them, but I think I've learned exponentially more doing these classes, and not only getting to speak with the professor, but also other students. Some of them also work at wineries. Some of them don't have any previous experience, and they are kind of working into the field, but some of them have experiences in the winemaking industry, and being able to ask them questions has also been very useful. So overall, I would say I really enjoyed this experience. I'm enjoying this experience. It's definitely growing my knowledge bank, and has definitely grown my confidence in diagnosing problems, creating plans for future action. And so I definitely feel like I can step into this role and be confident and not have to ask so many questions. I know when I first started working here, every day it was almost like I couldn't do anything on my own. I was like, well, how do you do this? How do you do this? I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. And I can tell, I mean, even though I've only been in this program for a couple semesters, I've already learned so much to where I don't really have to ask those questions anymore. And I still have the reference material that we're given in the beginning of classes, our books, that I can go back and reference and look back at my notes, which has been very, very useful.
Thank you so much, Ben. So I just wanted to mention, kind of in conclusion, I know that we've talked about funding a little bit. And so the Workforce Board, the Northwest Tennessee Workforce Board, we have programs that we use to fund these programs for our employers. So there's grant funds available. We have an on-the-job training grant. We have incumbent worker training grants. We have grants specific for apprenticeship. We max out at about $4,000 a year per participant, which has not been an issue with any of our employers that we've worked with on apprenticeship. We've been able to cover the RTI cost, that related technical instruction per apprentice with that maximum. So if you're interested, after you've listened to Ben and Kaylee and Dawn and Tyra today, and you think this might work for my company, I'd like to find out more, you're welcome to reach out to us. You can reach me directly at powell@nwtnworks.org. You can visit our website at nwtnjobs.org. We have information there. This recording will actually be posted there as well at the conclusion. So if you want to go back and review or share with coworkers to get their thoughts on it, we encourage you to do so. Our Facebook page is American Job Centers of Northwest Tennessee. We post all of this information there as well. So if we're hard to miss, if you're looking for information, you can find us, you can find contact information. Also, we had received some questions in the chat at this time. If you have some additional questions you would like to include in the chat box, please feel free to visit that chat option. We had a question about major manufacturing companies with employees trying the program, and Tyra has actually already responded to that. But yes, we have several large manufacturing employers that use apprenticeship programs. We've done a production technician here in Northwest Tennessee for production facilities. We've also recently had an HVAC technician. We've had maintenance, multi-craft maintenance. So there's endless opportunities there in the manufacturing field. As Tyra mentioned, it's not really limited by the type of employer. We thought it was great to invite Crown Winery today because that is something different. We have a lot in the skilled trades already, you know, your plumbers and your electricians. And so those, trying to think of other occupations that we have in manufacturing, but tool and die, there's a plethora of occupations in manufacturing already registered that we could look at. We have wonderful training providers in our area. We have online training providers. You can also provide your own classroom training. We work closely with a company here in Northwest Tennessee where they have in-house trainers and they have a curriculum already designed and they do all of their own instruction in-house. So there's many ways you can deliver the instruction for your apprenticeship. So, and we have time-based apprenticeships. We have hybrid that's based on actually accomplishing certain skills and marking those skills off. So there's so many options available. And as Tyra mentioned, they are employer-led. So we follow your lead. It's your apprenticeship, it's your program, you're in charge, you're calling the shots, and we're here to help you. So again, if you have questions, you can pop them in the chat box. Malia is monitoring those and we will answer any questions that come into the chat box and we'll answer them to everyone. So does anybody have anything else they want to add here in conclusion? Tyra, Dawn, Kaylee, Ben, is there anything else you wanted to add about your experience that you didn't mention already?
Ginger, if I might pop in, I would like to ask Tyra to answer
Sure.
a question. Are there any programs for special needs individuals?
Actually, yes. I'm trying to think if there's any in the Northwest region. We can develop if there's not one already. The one that automatically pops in my mind, we have a couple throughout the state that focus on, they have a 75% hiring rate for individuals with disabilities. And so their program is tailor-made for individuals with disabilities. And so again, employer-led, what we like to do is have intake meetings. We want to understand what you're trying to accomplish. We can give you some options and then we can kind of work through there. But depending on, you know, what you're wanting, what the job is going to look like or what the occupation is, we can definitely help partner you and set up programs specifically for any individuals with barriers, whether that's disabilities or corrections facilities, minors, any individual like that, we can set up programs. Does that answer your question?
We also work very closely with our vocational rehabilitation partners in the area. So if there's accommodations that need to be provided or job coaches. So if you're looking specifically to recruit individuals with disabilities that might require some accommodations, we're happy to network you with our other partners in our American Job Centers to help you accomplish that goal as well.
Yeah. I see a couple of other questions in the chat. I can go ahead and just address verbally if that's okay. One is regarding pre-apprenticeships and how receptive organizations like high schools and corrections facilities. I'm kind of glad you asked that question, Logan. We have a tremendous effort going on right now we are working throughout the state with high school CTE programs, depending on the occupation, again, whether that's in healthcare, electricians, plumbing, construction, depending on the occupation, we're setting up those programs and partnering them with a registered apprenticeship program. The key there is having that registered apprenticeship program. So if you're interested in that talent pipeline, let's get that registered apprenticeship program set up for you. And then we can't set up a pre-apprenticeship without that apprenticeship program. So we will set that up, and that pre-apprenticeship can be very lengthy or very short, depending on what again, the employer drives that that process. And so depending on what the employer needs, we will set that up. But yes, we are doing lots of work in the corrections facilities. Currently, we are just working on one in the trucking with corrections, giving them all the requirement they need and the training they need to obtain a CDL license. And so that's one that we're doing in the corrections facilities currently. And then let's see, do you need to provide? So no, the employers do not need to provide any equipment or anything like that. If that is an option for you and you want to do that, of course, I definitely encourage you to do that. The more you can get your brand out there, your name out there, especially when you're talking about high school students, the more recognizable your company is to them, the more likely they are to apply for your positions. And so we encourage that. It's not a requirement. The only requirement with the pre-apprenticeship program is that you interview individuals once they complete the program.
I think that covers most of the questions that we had in the chat. Again, if you have questions, additional questions at the end of this or after you speak with your team, feel free to reach out to us. I can get you in touch with Tyra, Holly Free-Allard, which is our Director of Apprenticeships for Tennessee, or again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, powell@nwtnworks.org. I want to thank the Crown Winery team too, specifically for joining us. If you have not been there, they are really a jewel here in West Tennessee. And as she mentioned, they host events, corporate events would be wonderful there. They have weddings and they're just a beautiful event venue year round. And I would just encourage you to visit them and see their talent that they've been able to recruit and train through the apprenticeship program. And Tyra, always appreciate you and all of your knowledge and sharing that with our employers in our area. So that will conclude our apprenticeship today. And again, any questions, feel free to reach out. And if you would like to review this webinar, it will be recorded and posted on nwtnjobs.org, our website. So thank you and have a wonderful day.